that we are working in terms of sine on the left-hand side and cosine on the right-hand side. So I'm going to go ahead and use the Pythagorean identities and change cosine squared of x to 1 minus sine squared of x. Okay, so going from here, I can continue on my way to factoring out the greatest common factor. So I'm going to go ahead and add sine squared of x to both sides. And I'm also going to subtract 1 from both sides. Okay, so as soon as I do that, I should wind up with 2 times sine squared of x minus sine of x equals 0. And taking a look at both of these terms, we will recognize that sine of x is in common. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that out in front as my greatest common factor and rewrite the inside of parentheses as 2 times sine of x minus 1. And we know that that product is equal to 0. Using the zero product property again, I can set sine of x equal to 0, and then 2 sine of x minus 1 equal to 0. On the left-hand side, using inverses, I'm going to ask myself where on the unit circle sine has a value of 0. And as soon as we check that, we should find that x will be at 0 degrees, or sine has a value of 0 at 0 degrees and 180 degrees. On the right-hand side, we can go ahead and isolate sine. So I should have sine of x equals 1/2. Taking the inverse of each side, we get that x equals sine inverse of 1/2. And looking at the unit circle, we find that x equals 30 degrees, or I'm sorry, sine has a value of 1/2 at 30 degrees and 150 degrees. Go ahead and take a look at the second example on your own. Please pause the video, work through the problem to the best of your ability, and then come back and compare your answers. Okay, looking at the second example for number 5, I should see that we are in terms of cosine squared and cosine squared of x minus cosine of x. So we're going to go ahead and change negative sine squared of x into 1 minus cosine squared of x using the Pythagorean identities. As soon as I go through and distribute that negative sign in, we can go ahead and simplify. And as soon as I get 0 on one side of the equation by adding 1 to each side, we should wind up with 2 times cosine squared of x minus cosine of x equals 0. From here, we can factor out the greatest common factor, which is cosine of x, and start solving. So I know I'm going to have cosine of x equals 0, and we know that the value of cosine is 0 at 90 degrees and 270 degrees. When I set the parentheses equal to 0, we should wind up with cosine of x equals 1/2, and we know that cosine has a value of 1/2 at 60 degrees and 300 degrees on your unit circle. So please go back, make sure that you're checking over your work, and be sure to make any corrections if necessary.